Hey guys, I'm back and I've got a bit of a unit here for you that's technical, mechanical. Let's go with mechanical. We're going to talk about hinges. We already covered articulation about the need of hinges and hinge joints and stuff like that within when we're constructing a mech, right? But we're going to talk about the different types of hinges just a little bit to help you be a better artist, right? So let's get into it. Let's talk about how these different hinges work and then see if it helps you in your drawing process. Okay. So the first joint we're going to talk about here is the hinge joint. I'm overusing that word a little bit. And what this usually, let's see if I could draw it something like this. Nice and simple. And so let's say, for example, we've got a shaft that goes through this, right? Okay, it comes in through there, comes out here, right? The other piece of this joint comes in here and it goes through there. So what happens is we've got this one piece that can rotate on this one hinge, okay? It's monodirectional, as in it just kind of goes one way here, right? It's just got this one plane that it moves on. This is when we look at the human body, we can think of this as this normal hinge joint, okay? It doesn't rotate well. It just kind of, and then it has a stopping point. So if we're designing this here, we might bring up some type of stopping point here, right? In its design, it might block out somewhere around here or something, right? And then so this part of the piece might just come up and hit at this point or something, right? Okay, so like I said, when we talk about this type of joint, a simple hinge joint, fingers, knees, elbows, non-rotational, right? A pivot. Pivot might be something, let's see if we have it like this, right? And then we have, we'll just draw this as if it's going straight through. We have this cylinder that goes through, right? And realize that like this would be kind of we wouldn't be seeing this stuff or whatever, right? Okay. So what does this do? Well, this pivot allows for the full rotation, the pivoting of this shaft, right? And so you can attach something else down below it, and this can rotate within itself, right? So it's a rotational pivoting joint. Okay. You can attach, for example, two joints. You know, this hinge could work here, and then you carry on that pivoting shaft, and it could rotate something else, right? These aren't always fully exclusive, as in you can only use one for one mech, and that's it. It depends on the joint you want to do, right? So the next one would be this orbital joint. Usually, let's see, what you could do is think of a ball. This ball has something coming out of it this way, and it has a socket that it sits in. Something like that, right? So this ball, let's see if I just shade it in a little bit, gets to not only rotate within this socket that it's sitting into, but it can shift left, it can shift right, it can shift a lot until the shaft that's coming out of it hits against a wall of resistance, whatever socket it's sitting in. So on the human body, what is an orbital joint? Well, the shoulder, right? We got a lot of rotation in it until, boom, it hits the scapula, or it hits something, right? It hits a bone that it's just, that's the extent of the range of motion, right? Okay, so Think of it this way: we've got the ball joint like this, and it's rotating. The shaft can shift around all it wants, but once it hits that wall, that's the end of the rotation. That's the end of the joint, right? It just can't move beyond that, right? So this orbital joint, if it's got something coming out of it, like a forearm here or a bone or a shaft or whatever it is, it'll be limited, right? If it's just a rotating ball, like I think what you could have, for example, is you can have a cube like this, right? And then you could have a ball sitting in it with like an eyeball, right? And this eyeball can rotate all it wants. It can move all around in this all it wants. And it has no limit because it has nothing sticking out of it, right? There's nothing to obstruct that. There might be some type of, however, whatever lubricates that eyeball and that ball moving around, right? But there's no protrusions, so there's no limit to its rotation, right? Okay, the last one is a glide. And a glide can be like, for example, let's see if actually this is getting kind of ugly here. Let's say there's a groove here, right? A groove on this piece, right? And this block sits within that groove and then slides back and forth within that groove. Okay, so a glide joint, it can slide in a groove, or it can, sorry, I'm going to switch colors here. It can sit within a housing, and for example, in this case, it's a tube, and it can slide in and out of whatever it is. It can glide and slide, right, in and out through however we're going to define this, okay, so when we're designing our mechs, like I said, we want to have a lot of points of articulation, right, as much as is needed to convey the mechanics of the mech. From the base structure up, we have to understand that there's certain ways that we want to have movement and everything, right? Even if it's a tank, like let's say we're designing a tank with a head sitting on top of it or whatever, those wheels are going to be moving. And what do they have? Well, they have a pivot rotation with each wheel in that tread, right? So almost every type of mech will have some types of joints. If it doesn't have articulation and joints, it's a brick wall. That's all you got. Is if that's what you have, it's just a floating brick wall. That's your mech. Right? Chances are you want more than that, right? And that's why you're in this course. So that's why we're looking at all of these different points of joints, right? I really hope that whether it's the hinge, the pivot, orbital, or glide, or some combinations of all of those, that it's helped you really understand that there's a lot of different ways to approach the points of articulation, and there's a lot of options you can get away with, right? So get creative with it, and let's see how you can add these into your mechs.